Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap up for you guys, and I'm really excited to talk about all the books that I read this month because I feel like I got to a lot of good stuff. We got like some spooky books, some not so spooky books, but I feel like for the most part I kind of stuck to like fall-esque reading, so yeah, I'm just really excited to jump into it. I think I read like 10 or 11, I'm not 100% sure, but it's like somewhere around there, so it was just a really good reading month. But before I get into the video, I do have a sponsor for this video, which I'm very excited about, because the sponsor for today's video is Book of the Month. So thank you so much to Book of the Month for supporting me and my content, and to you guys for also supporting me and my content. It's just so great. So let's talk about it. So if you guys don't know, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers. I love how they work to promote new and emerging authors and help readers like you and me discover new books that we could potentially love. Basically how it works is their team chooses a selection of books each month that are like either new or early release titles that you can choose from. Something I also really think is cool about Book of the Month is the fact that it is risk-free, so if you're not particularly feeling any of the books from that month's selection, you can just choose to skip at no charge to you. So I'm also really excited about the fact that I get to work with them in October because obviously they have like the best spooky book selection this month. So I chose two that I really want to talk to you guys about. So first up we have Hester by Lori Lico Albanese. I was immediately drawn to this one because it involves the Salem witch trials, which anything that involves the witch trials I'm like automatically interested in. This follows our main character Isabel Gambo, who with her husband moves to Salem sometime in the 1800s, but soon after they arrive her husband actually ends up leaving as a medic on a ship, so she is alone in Salem, penniless, until she meets Nathaniel Hawthorne, who is a man haunted by his past, and over the course of the book they just grow closer, and I think it's just like an exploration of their relationship and how that develops, and I just think this one's gonna be so good. So I'm really excited about Hester. And then I also picked out Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. This one I believe is like it involves the house with the chicken legs, obviously. And it follows the Yaga siblings who currently are kind of estranged, but one day they find out they have this inheritance, so they get together to go collect it. They're expecting like, you know, riches, money. They don't get any of that. They get this house, which is called Thistlefoot, which is sentient and it has chicken legs. So not quite what they were expecting, but definitely a very interesting premise. I believe there's kind of this malevolent spirit following them around, and I'm just really excited to dive into this. I don't think I've ever really read anything inspired by like East European folklore, so I think this one's gonna be great as well. So these are just the two books that I picked out for the month, but they do have a couple other selections that you can choose from, and if any of these seem interesting to you, or if you just want to sign up for their service, which I highly recommend, you can use the code TREAT to get your first book for $9.99. And also, very exciting news, they recently started shipping to Canada, so to all my Canadians, you can also go check it out. So again, thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into my September wrap up. So first I have The Vampire Diaries, The Awakening, and The Struggle, which are actually the first two books in the series, but they're like sold in this bind-up version. I gave this book like a 3 stars. I read this for a video because I love the show The Vampire Diaries so much, so obviously I had to read the book. Obviously the show is superior. I love the show so much. The book honestly wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. The main character is very different than she is in the show, and I hate her so much in the book. Like, she's actually the worst. But I am intrigued enough that I might continue the series. I don't know though. I don't know, but I might. Next up I read The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. I really enjoyed The Spanish Love Deception, also by Elena Armas, so when I saw she was having a new book, like a kind of a companion book coming out to The Spanish Love Deception, obviously I had to pick it up. I think I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 or a 4 stars. While I was reading it, I was having the best time, but I haven't thought about it since, honestly. Like, I really enjoyed it and I liked the romance, but at the same time, it was friends to lovers, which I don't love, but it wasn't bad. If I was gonna like recommend any friends to lovers, I would probably recommend this one, but I like there to be a little bit of, you know, tension between the two, and they were just too nice to each other the whole time. So this follows Rosie, who is the best friend of the main character in The Spanish Love Deception, and basically the roof to her apartment collapses while she's in it. So while Catalina and Aaron are on their honeymoon, she moves into Catalina's apartment without telling Catalina, and Lucas is also going to stay at Catalina's apartment while they're gone. So obviously they're like, what are you doing here? And eventually they do kind of work it out so they can both stay there at the same time, and kind of just watching them be awkward around each other was really cute. It's kind of like a forced proximity thing, friends to lovers. So if either of those tropes kind of pique your interest, I would definitely recommend it. Next up we have The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I love this book and it is a reread for me. I read it for the first time last October, and this is literally just like the perfect spooky romance book. This follows Vivi and Reese, who 9 years before the events of this book take place, kind of have like a little summer fling going on, and then Reese tells her that he's actually engaged back in Wales, and she obviously is not okay with that. So obviously he goes back to Wales, she's pissed, they break it off. Then later that night she's hanging out with her cousin Gwen, and they fake hex him. And then they move on for like 9 years. And then Reese comes back to the town where Vivi is now a professor, and things start to, you know, go a little weird. Magic is acting a little, you know, strange. And she starts to wonder if maybe the hex wasn't so much of a joke. I love the ambiance of this book so much. It takes place like right around Halloween, so like this town that they live in is just like totally decked out. Literally feels like Halloween town. If this was a real place, I would be going there like right now. No joke. I need to visit. But it was just really fun. Obviously, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book so much. So then, I also read The Kiss Curse, and I've been so excited about this book all year, and I think I gave this one a 4 stars, which, yeah. I really enjoyed this one as well. Not as much as The Ex-Hex, but it was still a fun time. This follows Gwen, who is Vivi's cousin, and she runs like a little shop in the town that she lives in called Something Wicked, where they sell like really tacky and kitschy witch stuff. And then one day, Reese's brother Wells also moves into town, and he starts a shop right across the street. I don't remember what it's called, but he has vowed to make it like, you know, real, respectable, magical items. And they kind of have like a little rivalry going on. And then there's like some sketchy witches moving into town, and they work together to figure it out. And obviously they fall in love. The ambiance is just so good, and it is definitely like as good as it was in the first book. And also, she has this talking cat called Sir Percival, who I just love so much, and he is why I gave it a 4 stars. Originally I was gonna give it like 3.5, but for Sir Percival, I did give it an extra half star because he's so cute. So next up we have Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I gave this one a 4 stars. I freaking loved this book so much. It was so bizarre, but like in the best possible way, because it's kind of a contemporary romance retelling of Frankenstein, which is never something I thought I'd be reading, but it was still really enjoyable. It takes place in like 1814, so you also have like the little Regency vibe going on, and our main character Angelica is like 24. She's not married, so obviously everybody thinks she's a hag at this point. So she is fed up with it one day, and she just decides that she is going to make her man, much like Victor Frankenstein makes Frankenstein's monster. And I think it's really funny because Victor Frankenstein's also a character in this book, like Angelica is his brother, and you kind of have like the plot of Frankenstein, like the actual book, just going on in the background, which I really enjoyed. And you know, she makes this man expecting him to like just absolutely love and adore her, but he's also like, what happened? I was dead like, you know, 10 minutes ago. And so he's a little reluctant to like jump into a relationship because he's like, what if I have a wife? What if I have kids? So the whole book is kind of them like trying to figure out what his past is, and I definitely was not expecting what ended up being his story, but it was very intriguing. So I would definitely, if you're looking for something a little kooky, I would recommend this book. Next up I have Cemetery Boys, which I feel like I read a freaking eternity ago, but I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book so much. The ambiance was great. The characters, really fun. Just the story in general was a really good time. And I also listened to the audiobook for this, and the narrator is so good, so I definitely recommend maybe reading it on audio. I read it like kind of both ways. but both were great. So this follows Yadriel, who is trans, and his family doesn't really accept him for it. So one night when his cousin Miguel dies, he is making it his mission to prove himself as a real brujo and track down his cousin's spirit and, you know, set it free, that kind of thing. But he actually ends up summoning the wrong spirit, and he summons the spirit of like this kind of bad boy who goes to his high school. And I just really enjoyed all of the character dynamics in this book. There's also Yadriel's friend Maritza, who is like in and out of it, and I really liked her too. It was just so fun, and I would highly recommend it if you want a really good spooky read, because they do live in a cemetery, obviously. So yeah, strong fall vibes, would definitely recommend. Next up, I read Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is also a reread for me because this is the Wyverns and Words book club pick for September, which is the book club that I run with Cass. And we decided that since Kingdom of the Fjord came out a few days ago, we wanted to make this our September pick. And I really enjoyed my reread of this, although I feel like I kind of enjoyed it a little bit less the second time around almost, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because like all of the really stupid things that Amelia does during this book like really stood out to me. But overall, I did enjoy rereading this book. I love seeing the beginning of Wrath and Amelia's relationship. I love the enemies part of enemies to lovers. It's like the best part, you know? So yes, this also segues me into the next book that I'm going to talk about, which you probably would think would be the second one in the series, but I ran out of time to read the second one before I read the third one. So I did not read Kingdom of the Curse this month. I just jumped straight into Kingdom of the Feared. I remembered enough that like this was okay. So I did finish Kingdom of the Feared, and I'm gonna have to give it a 3 stars. Honestly, I don't want to say it was a mess because it wasn't like awful, but it definitely was nowhere near what I was expecting and nowhere near what I wanted it to be. So I don't know if it's like a I had my expectations too high thing or it just wasn't good thing, but I don't know. There were definitely aspects of it that I enjoyed. So many things were being revealed. I feel like some of these things maybe should have been revealed in the second book and kind of made that one a little more interesting. And this one would have kind of been balanced out a little bit better. I don't know. I really liked Wrath and Amelia in this for the most part. And it's very disappointing because this is like one of my most anticipated books of the year. But it was like an enjoyable experience at least. It wasn't terrible. It just really wasn't what I wanted it to be, so. There's Kingdom of the Feared. Although this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, it's very pretty. Wow. Yeah. But the last book I want to talk about is also a book by Carrie Maniscalco, and is so freaking good. I loved it. This was Becoming the Dark Prince, which is like Stalking Jack the Ripper 3.5, so like in between the third and the fourth book. And this is like a novella from Thomas's point of view, who's like the male love interest in the series, and I loved this so much. Normally I am not into books that are from the POV of the male love interest. Thomas is the exception. I really enjoyed hearing how much he loved and adored Audrey Rose from like, you know, firsthand. I was like, yes. That's the kind of energy we need. I love Thomas Cresswell, and honestly, this novella, I think moved him up to like #1 on my list of favorite male love interests because wow. Just wow. The only thing is, it took me a second to like get into it because this does take place kind of at the end of the third book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, which I don't love. I find that book to be rather boring, really, but once I kind of got into it and I was kind of getting his side of the story because he wasn't really in the third book like too prevalently, but this kind of obviously is from his POV, so it's like all about him. It was just really fun, and I'm really glad that I finally decided to pick it up because I've had it on my Kindle for like 3 months now, and it's a crime that I didn't get to it sooner, frankly, so I'm really glad that I did. So yes, that is my September wrap up. I really hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all of the books that I read this month. I would also love to hear about the books that you guys read this month. So as always, let me know in the comments what your favorite book you read this month was, and if you're feeling shady, what is the least favorite book that you guys read this month? I would love to know, and yeah, I guess I will let you guys go, and I will see you in my next video.